So welcome to Women in Video Games. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Yay! Yay!
Oh my god, you guys are so friendly. Let's start by introducing ourselves.
Hi guys, I am Charlet Chung,
Woo!
and hi! This is my first time in San Antonio, so I'm very excited to be here. Thank you, and most of you might know me for a little video game called Overwatch. I am d.va, and oh, thank you for that reaction. And I am also a Rugrat, which I don't know is relevant to the women in video games, but I am Kimmy from the Rugrats. And Kagura from Mobile Legends, Bang Bang. And the list goes on and on, but I am so happy to be here. Echo from Fast and the Furious, yes, thank you. And thank you for having me.
I'm Cassandra I'm a voice actor based in Los Angeles, even though I started off in New York a long time ago. Some games you might know me from are Persona 5. I play Morgana. I am Asahina in Danganronpa. Do you have any players? I'm Yumi and Nami in League of Legends, which I love so much. I am Galacta in Marvel Rivals, which is coming out in December. I'm so excited about that one. It's in beta testing right now. Oh my gosh, I've been in so many other games. I always like blank whenever. I'm like,
Trails!
Oh yes, thank you, thank you. You did this for me yesterday as well. I so appreciate that. I am Fee and Alvin in Trails of Cold Steel. Oh, and then I'm Mualani in Genshin Impact. That just dropped. Yeah, Natland. We're playing Natland. She's a big part of it. So yeah, and a lot of other games, and super happy to be here.
Awesome. Hey y'all, I'm Heather Gonzalez. You might know me as Yukari in Persona 3 Reload. Alincia in Fire Emblem. Laura Arced in Charlet Chung 4 in Reverie. Kokolia in Honkai Star Rail. And a bunch of other fun stuff. And yeah, excited to chat with you guys about video games and stuff today.
Yeah! So I thought we could first chat about like how we got started and some of our favorite roles, and then we could open it up for questions, and we could also just kind of like see where the conversation takes us.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
Yeah, I feel like it's fun when you make a panel like a podcast.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
I'm for it.
Yeah, so feel free to just jump in.
Heather, you want to kick it off?
Sure. So I talked about it a little bit in yesterday's panel, but my very first video game ever was Trails of Cold Steel 4.
Woo!
I was replacing an actress, which is terrifying and happens a lot. Sometimes people can't come back for a multitude of reasons, but I jumped in to replace Marisha Ray, who had been doing the role for 3 straight games, and was a far larger name than me, coming as nobody. And so it was really, really kind of a terrifying experience. Voice matching and sound-alikes is, prior to that, apparently now it is, because I've done it a few times, prior to that was not my forte. It was not something I thought I could even do. And I got the audition for it, and I listened to her voice, and I was like, okay, well, we have a very similar tone and quality. Let me go watch the game so I can see what the heck this is about and kind of learn the musicality of her voice. And coming from the world of musical theater, I trained my ear through singing, so to learn to do her voice, I actually hummed all of her lines so that I could find her pitch.
Wow.
And then once I found the pitch, then I was like, okay, let's see if we can speak the way she speaks and her cadence and her flow and her music. And I booked it, which was amazing. And then I was terrified to go in and do it because it's filling very big shoes. And then I was terrified when it came out because the whole, everyone who loved the game was gonna have an opinion about someone not being there that they loved and the character being replaced, and that's always, really scary. But the fandom was super sweet and everyone was really, really great about it. But yeah, that was my first toe into video games. It was just like, oh, you want to do video games? Here's the deep end. Have fun with that.
How did you get started voice acting?
So voice acting actually, so again, I came from the theater world. I've been doing theater since I was 4, so like years. And all of my friends in theater, when like maybe 10 years ago, started moving over to voiceover and started doing anime and video games. And they're like, oh my God, you should do this thing. And I was like, no, not even a little. Me alone in a room talking to myself, that sounds terrible. That sounds like just judgment waiting to happen from my brain to my heart. I don't want to do that. So I fought it for a very long time. And then I was a stage manager on tour with an Equity Shakespeare company. And one of the actors is Gerald Rivers, who is the voice of M. Bison in Street Fighter. And he happened to be teaching a class. And I was like, oh, I want to take it. So I signed up for his class. And then, again, because I was afraid of being alone in a room talking to myself, voiceover being the thing that scared me, a week before the class, I was like, hey, I'm gonna chicken out this. You know what, gee, I can't afford it. I'm so sorry. Like, and he was like, yeah, I didn't ask you to pay for it. I was like, oh, crap. So I was like, okay, well, universe, just open the window. What are you gonna do? That's your challenge. So I went to the class and I did the thing that scared me and walked in, did it, and went, oh, this is what you guys do? Yeah, I only want to do this now. Aww. And then just sort of like dove in headfirst and was like, all this, all the time. Let's take my money, have my classes. I just want to be doing whatever it is you guys are doing.
That's awesome.
It was crazy and fun.
Were you doing theater in New York or LA?
I started in New York because I was born in New York. So I started in New York when I was 4. And then we moved to San Francisco. So I did a bunch of stuff regionally in San Francisco. And then moved to LA to do theater because that's what you do.
Yeah, that's an inside joke. Theater, like,
doesn't
it's
exist in LA.
It blows my mind because LA does not respect theater like New York does.
Nope.
But really, like, theater was like the birthplace of acting.
Yeah. But it's just, yeah, if you're not in film in LA, you don't count, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so then I moved over to stage managing because I was like, oh, actors don't make money, but stage managers do. And I'm good at telling people what to do and being in control of situations. Let's go. I got that. So I switched over and then I cried for a while because I was like, I want to do what they're doing 5 feet away from me. Why am I here in the booth? Now I live in a different kind of booth.
That's such a cool evolution.
Yeah, it's been a crazy ride.
It's been a journey.
It has. What's your journey?
Oh my gosh. Well, I started in local theater when I was 8 years old in Connecticut. They had like a children's theater that was like pretty well run, and like we put on some pretty amazing productions for being like a town in Connecticut and being full of like 3rd through 8th graders. So that's like where I learned how to act, really. That's like where I learned the basics. I loved dance. I took dance all growing up. And then we lived about like an hour outside of New York City, and I was always like, Mom, I want to be in commercials, like, Mom, I want to be on TV. So my parents took me in for like acting classes in New York, starting when I was like 12. And then I started doing like the child actor thing, where it was like taking classes, getting headshots, like going on interviews, like trying to get an agent. And I got my agent when I was 14. And then I started doing like a lot of commercials, and they were also a big voiceover agency. And I've always sounded way younger than I actually am. Like when I was like 14, I could probably sound like 9. Unfortunately, or fortunately for my career, I don't know. Unfortunately for my social life.
For the real life, yeah.
So just kind of went from there, and then I went to NYU, and after I graduated, I was like, oh, I'll never be able to make a living as an actor. It's like so hard, because I would like work with adults like when I was a child, and they would like tell me their problems like while we were on set, which is like very weird. They're like telling me
you're not a 14-year-old therapist? I'm pretty sure that was what you went in for.
Guess I was wise beyond my years. I don't know. They kind of scared me out of being an actor professionally, but I don't know. I could tell you some weird stories, but I won't get into that here. Anyway, I don't know. I graduated, and then I was like, I really miss acting, and then I was working at an ad agency in New York, and I would like go on my lunch break, and I would just cry because I hated it so much. So I would still go on auditions here and there, and then I booked Yu-Gi-Oh!
Woo!
And that kind of, oh, thank you. And that kind of like opened the door to like anime, which led to video games, which led to like, you know, me doing this kind of stuff.
So what was your first video game?
Okay, I did like a random Yu-Gi-Oh! Like arcade game, which that would be my first, if I'm being like, you know, this was my first game, it would be this. But I think my first game was Toturi, Adventurer of Our Land. I don't know if anybody's heard of that, but it's very adorable. Really niche games. Nobody here is applauded for it. It's okay. But I got to voice the lead in it, and I was like, this is so cool. I love doing this. And yeah, just kind of went from there, you know. It's like in voiceover, a lot of the production companies, they produce like multiple projects per year. So once you're like in with a production company, you're on their audition list, and you know, so Toturi led to, actually that same production company did League of Legends, so.
Oh,
I know, right?
All right.
Yeah, so it just led, and like a lot of other JRPGs. Yeah, so, you know, it's an evolution.
Yeah.
It's a process.
And everyone's journey is different, so what about
It is, yeah.
Can I grab one of the waters?
Please
Oh my
do.
God, help yourself.
Hydration is important.
It is very important, especially because we're going to be talking like all day today. Yeah, which I love, but then at the end of the day, I'm like, oh man.
Right? Go back to your room and you're like, no one talk to me.
Yeah.
I'm off now, it's done.
Let's see, what's the question? The question was,
How'd you get
started? Okay. I was first discovered, we're gonna go back to 5 years old now. I was first discovered on a plane, an airplane, by an agent, but my mom and dad are in education and they had no sort of interest in putting me in showbiz. And so, but then the idea of it was like planted in my mind. And so I'm like, okay, so this is something that, you know, I want in my future. And so I just, you know, went throughout life just trying to, but like stayed away from theater, which was really interesting. Like I did other things instead, which I think it eventually fed into my career. Like I was a musician, and I was in gymnastics and cheerleading, and so I made the varsity cheer team, and all this, like, all these things that I feel are really helpful in acting later because you live a full life. But then I didn't do any acting, and so, but then it's always been something I've always wanted to do. I'm always like, I came out of the womb mimicking people, and so that's just been something that I was kind of born with, and so I knew that I really wanted to. I'm like, okay, and everyone would be like, oh my God, like you sound or you look exactly like that person, and so it's like, I wonder if there really is a way to make a living mimicking or performing. And so I go to college and at the University of California, San Diego, UCSD, and I studied communications, and I got a minor in East Asian Studies, and I'm half Japanese, half Korean. And originally, so I'm trilingual, I speak all 3 languages, and originally I was gonna take my, thank you, it's like my only claim to fame, that's why I say it proudly, because I'm like, I don't know if I have any other talents, but I do speak.
You're an actor on like huge games, you are talented.
You're right.
But also very impressed that you're trilingual.
So I wanted to be a news anchor, and I was like, I'm like an international news anchor or something on CNN, and I had worked at a news station in San Diego for an internship, and then the news anchor that I was shadowing for that semester was saying that she has seen so many decapitated heads in her life because the news people here, I know, like, he did not intend that this was going to be a part of my story, decapitated heads. But she was the morning person, and then anytime they would hear the police dispatch before the police can get there, because like the news vans also have all of that information coming in. So she would get to the site before the ambulance would.
God.
So she's like, I've seen quite a few like heads, and I was like, ooh, I don't know if like I want to see all that at 2 o'clock in the morning or 4 o'clock in the morning. But really, that was like kind of I mean, it's not comical, but it was like an aha moment where I was like, you know what, like this isn't something that I'm really passionate about. That's what's really good, you know, about internships and stuff, because you can kind of, you know, it's you're in and you could dip your toe into it, but then you can also, it's not a career that you're committing to. So eventually I started working as, I had heard a story that Seth Green had only done background work 2 times, and he was discovered on the second one, did 1 line, got his SAG card, and then became a star. That's probably like totally a botched story, but I ran with it. And there were 2 productions going on in San Diego called Veronica Mars and Point Pleasant. I love Veronica Mars.
Yeah.
And so because I had no on-set experience, I was like, okay, well maybe I'll just, you know, mosey on over and like just try to get some experience as a background actor. And then I had gotten in, I did like the whole cattle call, I got in, did Veronica Mars, did Point Pleasant, and I was like, I haven't been discovered yet, like, what do I do? Like, it's been 2 episodes already, and like, I should be a series regular by now, what is going on? And then, so after the second time, the casting calls me again. It's like, oh, we have another episode of either Veronica Mars or Point Pleasant for you. You know, do you want to come on? I'm like, okay, fine. I'll do it one last time. And then after that, I decided to, and this is like a big thing, I think, with any, you know, career as you go up in the ranks or, you know, experience. It's really important, I think, I'm always telling people to draw your lines, your boundaries, so you don't get stuck doing one thing that you're not happy doing. Use the experience and strive for the next thing and try to get to where you're going. And so I drew the line there and I was like, you know what, I'm the next Seth Green. And so 3 times is a charm, I'm good. Like now I know that I don't want to, I'm good, I have the experience, and now I know I want to move on. And so I graduate and I start classes at a studio called the Margie Haber Studios, which is like a really renowned, you know, long-standing acting studio in LA. And this was about 19 years ago, and I'm aging myself. Also, I'm like, what was that?
Own it.
Yeah, I've gotten to a point, it's all on, it's like somebody put it on Google anyway. I'm like, I'm turning 42, and I'm thank you.
Cheer about it,
like
cheer about it.
Actresses tend to not want to say how old they are, and I'm totally respectful of that, but from my personal journey, I'm in a place where I'm like, what is wrong with it? Like, what is wrong with revealing your age? And so for me personally, like, I don't go around asking, like, how old are you? How old are you? But for me personally, I'm totally fine revealing that. So that was like about 19 years ago, and I had not known what like a manager, so this is sort of like not just video games, but like acting 101 and breaking into the business, but I had not known what like a manager or agent was. I knew like what an agent was, and someone's like, well, if you're starting off, you should get a manager. So it's like, oh, okay. And I did like a cold send out of my headshots to like 110 managers. I got 10 calls back, signed with one within like a couple of months, which is, all of this is like, when you're in it, you're like thinking this is how it works, but it's not. It doesn't really work like that. So I do feel like, you know, I was fortunate in that way. And I meet my manager, and she says to me, if you know, want to prove that you have a place in, you know, here in Tinseltown, like, you need to book your first television role within 3 months.
Jeez.
What?
Seriously?
Yes, she said that. And I was like, oh my God. My first audition was for Hannah Montana.
Woo!
Oh, yay! Miley Cyrus? I don't know.
Yeah!
And the line was, hi. And I had driven from, like, I was born and raised in California, and I had driven, but I wasn't living in LA at the time, and I had driven 2 hours to Hollywood Center Studios to say hi. Needless to say, I didn't get my first audition, but on the 12th week, so we're talking at the end of the 3 months, I get a call after auditioning for 3 months, and that same manager says to me, Charlotte, you booked a guest star on Cold Case. Yeah.
Woo!
Yes. And so I started like welling up in tears, and I was like, I did it! I did it in 3 months. Do I have, you know, like, do I have a place here? Do I have a place here in Hollywood? She goes, oh my God, girl, I was kidding.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
These people.
Yeah. She was like, you took me seriously, but you did a good job. And so thus begins my career 18 years ago. I was like, and it's not about, and this is another thing, it's not about will either, you know, in our career, it's not like, if I just really work hard and stay on this path, I will make it. There's such an element of fate and luck and hard work and perseverance, all of that is very important. But for me, I really think that what, and this sort of goes into the advice, area, but for me, when it comes to being an actor, it's about tenacity. It's just about staying in the race and not giving up. I do on-camera acting for shows like Shake It Up and Drake and Josh and continue like Desperate Housewives, Boston Legal, and I'm, trekking along. And 8 years into it, I remember that in high school, people could hear me from down the hallway. I'm sure you guys have similar experiences. We're like, we knew you were in the room. And I was like, maybe I can make a living, again, doing this voiceover stuff. It was very, very difficult to get into the voiceover industry compared to getting on TV. That was my obviously my personal experience. And but long story short, I end up, getting an agent, and then so it was like halfway, at the halfway point of my career that I started, and pretty quickly I got the lead or one of the leads in a little game called Call of Duty Black Ops 3. And I played a character named Seraph, and then the next project was Overwatch, and then that led to animation series opportunities and whatnot. And so, so here we are.
I just love how different every path is to get into where you go.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's the beauty of I think our business. It's there's a myriad of ways to get to where we want to go. Yeah.
What's funny is, short story, I'll make it a short story, but you're talking about tenacity. Yeah. So growing up in theater, there was a theater company in the Bay Area. When I was 9, I started to audition for them. They were like the premier children's theater company. They did all the great shows. They had like a giant theater. It was fucking beautiful. They had 3 shows a year, so 3 auditions a year. And their auditions were 4 hours long. And you would just go into different rooms and do a bunch of different stuff. And it was also just a lot of fun because it was a bunch of kids who love theater doing crazy things and being weird kids, because theater kids are weird. Go theater kids. But I was, even though I had been acting and stuff since I was 4, I was very shy in that sort of a group. Put me on a stage all day long. Put me in a group of a bunch of other very loud, out there children, and I was like, can I just sing my 16 bars and do my tap number and be done for the day? So I auditioned from 9 to 15, 3 times a year. It's like 21 auditions, guys. They never cast me. Meanwhile, I'm doing all these other shows in all these other places, but these people wouldn't cast me, and I just kept going back, and I'd be like, no, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get there eventually. And I would bring friends with me to audition. They would all get cast, I would not. Every single time, so it became a thing, like if you want to get cast there, go with Heather. You'll get cast, she won't, but you'll get cast. So finally, like when I'm 15, at the lunch break, I'm sitting down, and on all of the forms it always says, if you don't get in, try again next year, keep trying, don't give up, blah, blah, blah. So I sat down next to one of the directors and I was like, hey Tim, I got a question. You always say, keep coming. How many times is too many? He was like, well, how long have you been auditioning? I'm like, 21 times. And he just kind of looked at me and he was like, okay then. And that was it, nothing. The next morning I got cast. From 15 to 18, I was a lead in all of their productions. At 16, they started teaching me to direct. At 18, I became one of their main house directors and did all of their lighting and costuming. Never, ever, ever give up on something you want to do. Push. Tenacity is all it's about. Because when I came to LA, after doing that from 9 to 15, no did not matter. You could tell me no all day long and I'd be like, I'll come back next time, it's just another yaw audition. See you later, I'll be back. You're gonna cast me, just wait.
Yeah, a lot of it is just about suiting up, showing up, showing up over and over and over again. And I will say, So being a voice actor in like conventions, that didn't exist. Like when I started doing voiceover, it was like very anonymous thing. And I was just doing it because I loved it. Like I love acting, and I would do it even if I never met anybody who watched anything that I've ever been in or played anything, I would still do it. So if anybody out here is like, maybe I want to try voice acting professionally, like do it because you love it, because you love the process, because you love the audition, because you love playing a character, not because you want some sort of like public reward.
Yeah, it's one of those things, like I've always heard, I don't know if you guys ever heard this one, but it's like, if you could do anything else,
do it. I always tell
if you
people
don't
that.
have to be an actor, like,
if
you don't cry because you hate your other job, or cry because you're a stage manager watching people act, you don't have to do it, don't do it.
Yeah.
It's a rough business and it's not nice to you, but if you have to do it, then it can go.
Yeah.
The other side of that coin, or maybe another way of putting it, I always say, pick the profession or do the career or do the thing that you would do for free anyway.
Yeah.
And like, I think a big thing is, a lot of people are like, sometimes people are curious about like how much money you make. Is it is it lucrative? Blah blah. I'm like, that's not the focus. Find something that you're passionate about and do that, and the money will come. I think that's something that it's find the passion, then the treasures will be there, instead of the other way around, like looking for the money or whatever is not going to lead to your passion.
Yeah.
And ultimately, we're looking to do what makes us happy, as cliche as it sounds.
But it's true, yeah.
Yeah, no, that is totally true. And I will just say, like, when I started doing anime, it was considered very taboo among actors in the industry. My agent wouldn't touch it. They were like, oh, are you doing those jobs at 4Kids? We don't take commission on those because they pay so low. And,
at least they
now
didn't
they're
take
probably
commission.
like, where's their commission?
Yeah, right. Now they
people
send
are
you the 4Kids audition, if 4Kids existed.
Yeah, exactly. They're negotiating the deals.
Well, it still pays very little, so.
Yes.
But it's like, yeah, but they want, other pieces of stuff that you do. And I just think it's so ironic because, like, even other actors I would see, they'd be like, oh, you do anime? And I'd be like, yes, because I've had multiple actors. I know.
And now everyone's like, I want to do anime.
I was just doing it now. I've never done anime, and I've been telling all my anime friends for the last couple of years, like, how do I get in? I really want to be an anime. I can't. I don't. Maybe it's also because like I'm half Japanese and it's part of my culture. Like,
right.
But I think it's more like the end of the business end of it and how it doesn't like make as much or whatever as like mainstream SAG stuff. But like that's wild. And now, of course.
Now
it's not taboo at all.
Now agents are like actively trying to get their talent in anime, and I'm like, oh my god, people! I was like shunned, but I was doing it because I loved it. I loved being on Yu-Gi-Oh! I loved being on every anime thing. Like, I just did it because I liked it, and I don't know. And now people are like, how do I do it? And I'm like, you people don't know what I went through. The shame, and now I put on a pedestal. I know, it's
full circle.
Wild.
It all comes
what else it was? It was COVID. Because people were, not exposed to anime. Like just, outside of the, I think,
there was
the business end of it, the niche culture has now turned into mainstream culture because when it was on Netflix and people were stuck at home, being able to actually be exposed to it, and then it became cool.
Yeah.
Which it was already cool.
The people just had to figure out that it was cool.
Exactly.
Well, you guys all knew.
It's like growing up, I'd only heard of like Sailor Moon and Dragon Ball Z.
Woo!
And that was it. Like I wasn't going to the video store and like looking for like cool anime things.
Yeah.
But yeah, like during the pandemic, people were like, I need something to watch. Oh, this has 1,000 episodes. I'm gonna start
That'll get me through.
1,000 episodes. Yeah, I know. So I guess that's one good thing to come out of a global pandemic.
Yeah, right. So flipping us back to video.
Anyway, we're supposed to be talking about video games.
So, question for you guys.
Yes.
What is one of the coolest things you get to do in video games, and then one of the strangest things you can remember doing for a video game that you can talk about in public?
Kick it off.
Oh, sure. So, I feel like the coolest thing is like the strangest thing for me.
Fair.
It's like making all the battle sounds and basically just like beating myself up alone in a padded room. So like anywhere else, you would be like, that person has some problems, and we lock them away. But like I get to do that and just, I feel so free with nobody watching me and just like being alone. Like I feel like I can just do anything, and yeah. But that is also weird.
Well, no, because I was gonna say efforts is definitely the one that's for me the weirdest. Like when I first started, I was like, wait, okay, sure, I know what it sounds like. So I'm in a game called Alien Fireteam Elite, and it's an aliens game, and so you get the xenomorph will kill you. And so I finished playing my character, and then they're like, oh, can you be one of the player voices? And I was like, yeah, okay, sure. Wish you would have told me that before, I would have not done that other voice. But yeah, we can be the player and die in this deep voice down here the whole time. Why not? So they're like, okay, so this time, you know, the alien picks you up and it stabs you through with its tail. What does that sound like? And you're like, I don't fucking know. Okay, that was great. Okay, now this time, the alien picks you up and then it opens its big mouth and then it takes its little mouth and sticks it into your throat. What does that sound like? And you're like, sure, I got that. Hang on. Always the strangest when you're like, yeah.
Well, I love it because there's no wrong answers. Because like,
I mean, I've made some noises where after I made them, I was like, that's not right. That's not how that, I'm sorry, that's not right.
But like, how I like to put it to my students, because I also teach voiceover, is that like, in real life, has that ever happened? Has anybody ever been picked up by an alien and stabbed in the middle? I mean, nobody that I know has ever experienced that. So it's like, you're making it up as you go. There's no wrong answers. You cannot go wrong. Whatever comes out is the right answer. And if the director wants something different, they will redirect you. Yeah. That's what I love about playing fantasy characters. Yeah.
Well, the question was, what's the coolest and strangest thing?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm taking my answer in a completely different direction.
Get it.
I don't know where it, like I got it in my head, but when I started voiceover, I had this thing where I was convinced that every time you go into the booth, like you have to take your shoes off. So that, and so it was weird. I don't know, I still don't know the origin of it. And so I'd come in boots or heels or whatever, and then the director will all of a sudden see my head like go underneath like the glass, and then I go like 2 feet like under, and they're like, okay, Charlotte, do you need an adjustment on the mic? Like, and I know those sound engineer guys are going back, they're like, I don't know, bro, like she took off her shoes. Like, it's so weird.
I wonder if it comes from like, because I've seen people do it when they're wearing boots that are like squeaky.
Oh.
And so you don't want your boots like they make noise.
I mean, that wasn't my mentality. I didn't have that kind of.
It was just a.
Yeah, and I think there was something about it that somebody told me, you know, you could, maybe somebody had put it in my head, you know, you could take off your shoes or something, and it was a grounding experience for me anyway.
That's fair.
But then I went around, because, you know, then I started getting some games and stuff and animations, and they're like, oh my god, so some of my on-camera actors, well, like many of them, like, how do I get into that? Like, I want to do that too. And I'm like, I don't know, but can I give you some advice? When you start working in voiceover, make sure you take your shoes off every time you book a role. And so then I have like a group of friends that still tell me, like, you know what, Charlotte, I still take my shoes off. So I've spread this weird culture, and and it's like so weird. And so I started like recently being like, oh, you don't have to do that. I'm sorry, I told you that 10 years ago. That's like a weirdo, like strange story about voiceover.
That's
so funny. If I ever
misinformation just like traveling through, and I can't even imagine the pyramid of people they've told, because you're like, oh, she's like somewhat successful in this, and so
she knows.
And like you need to take your shoes off because that's what you do when you enter the booth. Like so weird. What were you gonna say?
If I ever work with anybody and they've taken their shoes
off,
I'd be like, oh, do you know Charlotte? She's so nice.
I cannot wait for this moment now. I'm looking forward to this.
voiceover acting in video games. So my very first big role was on Call of Duty, and I was directed by a man named Keith Farley, who is also a very prominent voice actor, and but primarily does a lot of directing. And that was sort of my foray into video games, because it was a lot of the, okay, Charlotte, now you're underwater and you're getting electrocuted, and so what would that sound like? You know, and a lot of that, I worked on it for 1 or 2 years. It was a long time, but it kind of felt like voiceover college, because I'm being directed, and I didn't even know, like, I have been so new, I didn't even know who Keith was. Like, I was just there, and he happened to be the director. And later on, of course, like, as I, you know, became more experienced, I was like, they're like, oh my God, you worked with Keith, like, you know. And so it was sort of, I got thrown into the deep end and figured it out. And I mean, this is a little bit of like a technical thing, but I had not known about voice preservation, and that you can cap your hours at 2, especially if it's vocally stressful. Like, this is not something, I have a really amazing agent now, but at the time I wasn't being as protected, so I would do these 4-hour electrocution sessions. And Keith was like, you're such a trooper, like, because I was like new, and I was like not gonna tell him that I, 6 months into it, I was like kind of losing my voice, and I went into the bathroom once, and I just kind of felt something in my throat, so I spit out, it was blood. So I literally bled for Call of Duty. And so, yeah, and so I used to have a much higher voice, and people would mistake me for a child all the time, and they kind of still do, but it permanently changed my voice. And so it was like, it was sort of I mean, not the darker side, but kind of like it was a lesson learned, and but ever since then, any sort of like military video game, any sort of video game in general, because it's all effort, a lot of like, no matter how friendly and cute it is, even Overwatch, you're like, there's fighting, and there's efforts, and there's dying. Yeah. And I feel like I became somewhat of an expert at dying and all of that after the game. And so I used to be so mad, like, oh my God, this changed my voice. I can't believe I sacrificed so much for this game. And it's just a game, like, oh my gosh. But looking back, I'm thankful for the experience, regardless of some of the sort of repercussions that came with it from a lack of experience. And now I have the experience to move forward and do, and you know, preserve my voice and do better. So yeah.
I'm so sorry you had to go through that.
Yeah, it was kind of
really dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of wish Keith would have stopped you.
I know, but you know, in all fairness, I looked back and I was a little like, Keith, come on, because of all people, because he's really big about you know, protecting actors. Yeah. He would check in like, you okay? And I'm like, I'm great.
You didn't know to tell him no.
No. Yeah. And then I get to another agency and they're like, you know, okay, so do you want to cap it at 2 hours? I'm like, we could do that? And oh my gosh, then I told them the story and they're like, Charlotte, you have to speak up and you have to tell them. I was like, I don't know, it was the first time I was a lead of a video game. Like, I didn't know.
That's totally fair, because you go in, you're like, I want to be good and right, and I want to get the next job. And
yes, yeah. You live and you learn.
I know. You can actually even cap it at 1 hour now.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I mean, you can ask for it and still be paid for 2, but when I was working on Persona 5 Strikers, Morgana does a lot. He's there, he's cheering you on, he's yelling like the whole time, and I was like, I need to do 1 hour sessions, and they let me do it.
Oh, that's nice.
So yeah, but there is also a contract where you can do 1 hour, 1 voice, but it's like you take a pay cut.
Yeah.
But for some of them, I was like, I don't care. I will take the pay cut because I want to be able to talk.
Right. So is going in for the 1 hour for that one the biggest accommodation you've ever asked for?
Yeah.
I think mine is also for Persona. Being that it was the first time, now I have done it before, but the first time that someone let me be a teenager, instead of being this down here where I wake up at 9 in the morning, my accommodation was I can't have a session before 2 p.m. because I can't sound like that before 2 p.m. I'm like, no, if you want Yukari and you want that high pitch, you gotta give me the morning to warm up. if you want her to sound like a 40-year-old woman, I got you, let's go. But otherwise, you want teenagers, 2 p.m. and after. And so they had done one session at 9 a.m. and I was like, no, we can't. I can't. No. Yeah. Sorry, no.
That makes sense.
I think about 4 or 5 years, since the Call of Duty thing was like close to 10 years ago now. But for me, starting about 5 years ago, they had actually offered me the role again, but I had turned it down. So I just don't do vocally stressful anymore because Rugrats and all these other baby kid characters I play, that's more important to me now than like possibly ruining my voice. So I haven't actually had to do that, where I'm like, I need to cap it because I'm preserving my voice for things that I want to do. But I think that that's a good thing to know, that, you know, you can now cap it at 1 if you want to.
It's good to have boundaries.
Yeah.
Do you guys want to open it up to Q&A?
Yeah.
Do you guys have any questions for us? Do you guys want to line up nicely, walk to the microphone, and we'll do some questions? We have 15. All right, what's up?
Sorry, it's just clearing my throat. I'm so excited. I just want to say a couple things. First, I just want to say to Cassandra that thank you for being in Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds and GX. I was really disappointed when I found out they didn't continue with Season 4 and they just skipped through 5Ds. So I was really disappointed.
Well, I could tell you the story behind that if you want to know, but I don't know if you want to know.
It's up to you. I mean, I'm a big Yu-Gi-Oh! fan.
Or I'll do the short version.
Okay.
It's anime, but during that time we were recording 5Ds, the recession was starting, and it was like really dark. It was like, it must have been 2008. And it was like every time I would go into the production company, into the studio, there would be like, we just shut down this show. Then we just shut down this show. And they would be like, Cassandra, we hope you're okay. Because I would work on all the other shows too, but I was so young, I didn't know anything about like financial crash. I was just like, wee, I'm an actor and I'm working on something, it's fine. And then every time, then I would keep going in and then there would be like less people working and less people working. And I was like, and then it got to the point where Yu-Gi-Oh! Was the only show they were recording, and it was like a ghost town. It was so sad in retrospect. And then they got to the point where they were like, hey, so we just don't know if there's going to be any more episodes, because we just don't know what's happening.
They just skipped towards like almost the last part of the Grand Prix.
Yeah.
And then you came back in the movie, Bonds Beyond Time, I believe, as Yubel.
Yeah, I actually didn't get to voice her for that, because at that point I was like, all right, well, there's no more work for me in New York, so I'm going to move to LA. And then I moved to LA, and then they called me like 2 months later, and they were like, we're recording more. And I was like, but I moved to LA. They're like, will you come back? I was like, will you pay me to come back? And they're like, no. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I can't fly myself across the country, because as I mentioned, anime doesn't pay well, so it just didn't make sense. But yeah, the recession had a lot to do with that, unfortunately. It was just like a really sad time.
Yeah, and I heard a couple stories you mentioned about in some panels, and like you mentioned a story about how when you were casted in the was it you thought you were Violet or something, Ruby or something, and it was where your agent gave you the wrong character, and you said you were Vi's friend, but you didn't prepare for the pilot, and
yeah, that was for a different show. That was
so every time I hear that story, I usually remember it because I'm a voice actor myself. I've been into school productions. I just have an audition next week for a Shakespeare play. So I'm also studying Japanese anime. When I watch it, I practice dubbing because I remember what you told me in the class when I took it from you. Anyway, and I also want to say, since this is the first time I ever see you two together, I just love your characters, and I gotta say, together, Lauren Fee spells complete victory. Anyway, I have 2 questions, and I also have a request for Cassandra. If you could still do Morgana's or Fee, can you just say, yes, all enemies defeated, just what I expect from you, Joker?
I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna preserve my voice for the rest of the day. I hope you understand.
Okay. Well, my first question is actually for just you, Cassandra. If you want to answer it, you can. I noticed that whenever I played Persona 5 between the game and the Royal, there's been a lot of stuff, changes between Morgana, like when they added the new story, and well, also the trails too, about how the evolution between Morgana and Fee, how Morgana actually like changes when the new story comes in with Dr. Maraki and becomes a human, and he turns into a helicopter. And also Fee, from part 1 of the game, she starts napping, but then later she starts getting more focused with class 7 and all that. So when you were recording for the characters, were you like surprised about how the evolution went on of all of those characters, or did you just know, like, you decided to wing it and be like, oh, that's what she's gonna do? That's, you know.
I was really happy that Morgana was able to go through a transformation throughout the series, because I feel like it's easy to just write off a mascot character, like, oh, it's a cute cat, whatever. But the thing that's so great about Persona is the storytelling and the depth of character. So, I mean, it's always fun to play somebody who goes through something and grows, because otherwise it's just kind of like a flat performance and it's going to be the same. So, yeah. And the same for Fee, too. I mean, it's so fun to, like, grow up with a character.
I mean, about Laura, were you surprised about her evolution from part 4 to Reverie, or,
I mean, kind of the same. You're always, you know, it's always, you learn something new about them, and then you get to learn and grow with the character and become a part of the story. It's always fun.
Okay. My second question is, let's see, in any of the games that you have voiced, was there like anything that, like a special scene that, you know, you voiced that really struck to you? Like, you know, like, this is the one that really touched me in my heart, you know? Like for all you guys, anything you voiced, like something that touched you.
Yeah, I would say for me, it's all of the stuff in Persona 3 with Yukari's dad. 2 years before I recorded that, my dad passed away, and that was really, really difficult for me and still is. So it was a very cathartic experience going through it. There were things that would pop up on the screen. There's a moment where she's reading a letter from her dad, and the words on the screen are, "I am so proud of you, I love you," and it probably took me 15 minutes to get the words out of my face, because I thought my dad's voice, I saw those words and I couldn't say them.
I have chills.
And I couldn't say them in her voice. So we had to break and come back and get into those moments. But yeah, I think that would be for me the most a character has ever resonated and touched on something true in my heart, that I was like, oh, here we go. We're doing this together. I have still yet to actually watch that part of the game.
That's your dad talking to you from the other side.
I know, it's very it was sweet but hard.
No, of course, yeah, but it's so beautiful. Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna buy the game for sure.
Enjoy it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna skip over so that we can keep going, because we only have like 8 minutes left.
Yeah.
Hi. If you could hang out with one of your characters, who would it be and why?
Definitely Yumi from League of Legends, because she's like the ultimate hype cat, and I just want that in my life.
Charlotte, do you have one?
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna, I will probably say Julia from Carmen Sandiego. Julia Argent, because she's just so sophisticated and brilliant. So I'd love to pick her brain and see and become friends with her.
Nice. I'm gonna go with Yumiko Suzukiri from Go-Go Loser Ranger, because she's a freaking mystery.
And I think I have one more question. Which of your characters would you not get along with? The opposite of what I just asked.
I love all my characters.
I wouldn't want to be annihilated by Seraph from Call of Duty. She's a frightening character. So.
That's a good answer.
I like that.
So,
Hi.
I'm not sure if like recording sessions are like common in video game work, but if y'all were like in a group recording session, what would be like y'all's ideal kind of video game to work on? Like what kind of genre do you think?
Do you guys work with other people in video games?
In video games?
I've never.
I have twice.
Oh, wow.
Which is really rare, but one was for Bug Snacks.
No.
Does anybody play Bug Snacks?
Yeah.
Ah, oh my gosh, okay. So the producers of that game, Young Horses, it was like their second game ever. And they even told us, they're like, oh, we didn't know that it's not a group record session. So they just made it a group record session. There were 12 of us in the booth, but it was so fun and also like really intimidating because I stood next to Fred Tatasciore and I was like, oh my God, it's my favorite. But he's so nice, like he's so chill. Like I had no reason to be like scared, but you know, I like look up to him. But he was so cool. It was awesome. And there's like Roger Craig Smith and Max Middleman. And then, oh my God, wait, why am I blanking on her name? She was on Mad TV.
Deborah Wilson.
Deborah Wilson was like right next to me. She's really intimidating, to be honest. she's so funny, but she's just, I don't know. I was just like, oh my God, I used to watch you growing up. Like, they're sitting next to me. Oh my God. It was awesome though. Like, Bug Snacks is so funny and like weird and yeah. So that game was awesome because like, and I'm like trying not to laugh, but I'm also like checking out like, oh, what's their method? Because you never see another video game voice actor acting. So I'm like spying on people, like trying to like pick up tips. Yeah.
Thank you all very much.
You're welcome.
Hello.
Hi. Hi. So I was curious, you said that multiple of you got your start in theater, and I was wondering if there's any crossover between kind of what y'all are doing now and audiobook reading, because I suppose in my mind it feels a bit more theatrical to do an interpretive reading of, you know, like a dramatic book, rather.
Oh yeah. I've narrated like over 300 audiobooks actually.
Oh,
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So I've
More
spent
power to you.
Thanks. Spent a lot of time alone talking to myself. Like, okay, here's how I think of it. Like back in like thousands of years ago, we had storytellers. And, you know, they would like hold all the stories of like their tribe or like their community. So I just feel like I must have been descended from one of those people because I have so much fun doing audiobooks. Also, I get to do really fun ones like young adult and middle grade. And I don't know, I love that anyway.
What's your favorite?
So I got to narrate the Pretty Little Liars series, which was so fun, you guys. And then The Perfectionists, which is like by the same author. So like all those like really fun, I did like Gossip Girl books. So all just series like that where it's like, there's a mystery, but there's like beautiful teenage girls, but they're tragic, and they're also rich. I don't know, it's just, I get so into it. So yeah, there's definitely, I mean, there's all areas of voiceover, but if you want to go into audiobooks, you have to love reading. First and foremost, like if you just devour books, which I have always done, like you will excel at audiobook narration. If you're like, man, I don't really read, like you're gonna have a hard time. Yeah.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
You can have it.
Thank you.
Have it.
It's like, there's 6-hour recording sessions. So yeah, I've kind of limited them to 4 lately, just because I have a baby and I'm trying to like not work like mad hours. But yeah, I kind of do half days now. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We are short on time, so one question
Okay,
each.
yeah,
one
let's do
answer.
speed round.
So I guess my question is, what's your favorite character or like project you ever worked on, and one to just keep going back to, like thinking about it?
Persona.
Yeah, same Persona.
Overwatch.
Persona rule.
Hi.
Hello. Hey, you can lower that.
Okay.
There you go.
Hi. First off, I love each and every one of y'all's works. So like, first off,
Thank
I'm
you.
proud of y'all. So like, yay. So my question is, what was like the most challenging thing you ever faced in your career, and how did you overcome it? I know it's deep. But,
Honestly, I don't know if it was challenging. Well, okay, I'm not going to say this was the most challenging, but it was the most recent challenge. I just mentioned I had a baby, I was pregnant, and I did not know that at 8 months pregnant, really hard to breathe. And I was actually in a session and I had to stop the whole session, and the director like wasn't very understanding of my like
they're never understanding.
unless if they have kids or if they're a woman, they get it. This was a man who probably didn't have a wife or kids, and he was like, the lines were so fast and he was having me do it over and over that I was just like, I need to call it, I need a break. He's like, okay, like 5 minutes, and I was like, no, like I need just like 6 months. And then he like didn't want to give me a break, and I had to call my agent. No, I had called my agent during the session. I've never done this before, and she was like, oh hell no. She's like, I'm calling them right now. And I was like, this is so awkward.
I'm not gonna go to the bathroom and let you deal with this.
Yeah, no, it was the most awkward position I've been put in ever, because I'm trying to like, I'm like, I'm not gonna hurt my baby to like be in a video game. And then later someone was like, you were also like, you know, you don't want to hurt yourself, like to be in a video game. And I was like, I need to care about myself more. I don't know. It was a whole thing, but yeah, it was challenging. I know that there are limits when you are growing a human, but
what happened?
You know. So they were like, the producer then came on the line and they were like, Cassandra, we just talked to your agent. We're so sorry. Do you want to call the session now and we can reconvene on Monday? And I was like, yes, but I don't want to reconvene. I don't think I can do it. And they're like, we can take it as slow as you want. And I was like, no, I can't do it. I was just like, no. I was like adamant about it. So they were like, okay, we respect that and we will find somebody to replace you. But it was also a character that, I'm not gonna say which one it was, but I've been doing the character for a long time, and I knew I wouldn't be permanently replaced, so it was also kind of like, I know you guys will need me again, so I felt...
I'll be back.
Yeah, I was like, they're not gonna permanently replace a pregnant woman, first of all. Like, that's really bad for HR and PR, and I would have told people, but it was just very awkward for me personally, because I just didn't know my limits, and you know, you live and learn. If I ever get pregnant again, I probably won't work after like 7 months, to be honest. So,
that's fair.
Yeah.
We're getting the wave down.
Okay.
That's all the time we have.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
guys so much.
We're gonna be at our tables right now. We're headed over, so
I'll
be
say
there.
hi, ask more questions. If you didn't get to ask your question, you can come chat with us at our tables.
Say hi. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Thank you.
Have a great weekend.